Hey everybody, happy Friday. Greetings from my home office. I am home today, working in front of the computer, and I thought it might be a little easier to share some information through video as opposed to having to organize my thoughts and put it in writing. So I appreciate everyone giving this a try, and hopefully it works well. Just wanted to kind of give everybody an update on some of the information I've been able to gather regarding FSLA, the change in status from exempt to non-exempt, and how that impacts us as a department and how we are going to be proceeding as we go forward. I've got some information to share with you. Um, some of it's good. I think some of you might be interpreting it as bad information or bad news, and also just keep you apprised of some other work that's still left to be done. Uh, so let's call this a virtual staff meeting and see how this goes. As you all know, the Federal Standards Labor Act is supposed to be enacted as of December 1st. This should not be a surprise to anybody. We did have this come up in a conversation in our staff meeting in September, the September staff meeting, which Judy Vreeland joined us, and at that time there were still some unanswered questions. However, I tried to reassure everybody that our working conditions and the perks and benefits of being a staff interpreter should go unchanged. I since have met with Human Resources, Kristen Tagman, and I also had a good 1 hour meeting with Judy Vreeland yesterday, which was very, very positive overall. And Judy Vreeland, again, is in our corner. She wants to make sure that our the employee benefits as well as the TLC benefits of how we operate, how we structure, and how we schedule our department goes unchanged. Just so folks know, I'm including a couple of attachments which I think will be helpful. There is a fact sheet regarding the Fair Labor Standards Act, and I think it'll be helpful to answer any additional questions or for you to understand how this decision was made. I know that Kristen sent out an email a couple weeks ago, which was fairly abrupt, black and white. The determination was made that ASL interpreters are non-exempt, which can be disputed to a certain extent. There's a certain criteria that they use and a certain test that they give each job description in order to determine whether or not they qualify as exempt or non-exempt. So you can read the fact sheet to see how that determination was made. In essence, the determination was made by TLC's consulting labor attorney. I myself have done some research on interpreting positions around the country, and I have to tell you, the majority of staff interpreting positions around the country are considered non-exempt. Basically, non-exempt means you're an hourly employee versus exempt being a salaried employee. And the whole goal and intention of instituting this new law is to protect workers from being exploited, having them work above and beyond without compensation. If you work more than 40 hours in a given work week, you should be automatically eligible for overtime. So that's kind of the spirit of the law. And again, the spirit of the law is not to penalize employees, but to make sure that they're fairly compensated. And I know people have mixed feelings about going from salary to hourly and how it impacts them and how it impacts the function of our department. So let me just apologize if people felt slighted in any way. I understand the change in status might feel as though you're not given as much professional recognition as you would like as a certified licensed professional. However, our job description and duties didn't meet the litmus test, and I'm going to talk more about that in a moment. Some of the criteria that was used was really a minimum threshold of salary. If you earn less than $47,474 per year, you're virtually almost automatically disqualified. So that's a good portion of us are below that threshold. That's some of the rationale. Um, Let me just start by sharing some really positive news. The positive news is that we are still able to earn additional income by being an independent contractor. So if you work for TLC in the evening or on the weekends and it's approved by myself, then you are able to bill as a freelance as normal, as nothing's going to go unchanged as far as that goes. I know that there's a, a number of concerns that were regarding um, punching in and punching out and what that's going to look like and how our staggered schedules are going to be handled in that regard. More good news is that we're going to be relying on timesheets, either electronic or handwritten, that tallies up your week schedule uh, in 8-hour shifts. So everybody's going to have to submit. It's a little bit it's an extra step in everybody's workload, but simply fill out a timesheet every 2 weeks, and that gets submitted to payroll. Your timesheets should add up to 40 hours, unless, of course, there's some other circumstance where you're doing less than 40 hours. If you're doing 40 hours per week, if you're doing more than 40 hours per week, overtime would need to be approved by myself, or freelance reimbursement would be approved by myself or somebody else on our senior leadership team. We're still able to utilize flex time. If you are taking 8 hours of flex time, simply just write that into your timesheet as an 8-hour shift. There's no other detail that's necessary. It's how many hours you are being expected to be paid each week, and just fill in your timesheet accordingly. We do have some restrictions regarding flex time and the accumulation of flex time. Technically, that flex time is supposed to be used in the given pay period. However, we know that we've utilized a lot more flexibility around flex time, particularly when people have a specific need or purpose. We're still going to be able to honor those special requests. However, they do need to be special requests, and we need to have a plan for how you intend to use flex time and get reimbursed for it at a later date. That will not ever go into a written policy. That's something that we're going to do in-house on a case-by-case basis, special circumstances. So let's be a little bit more hyper-vigilant about where and when we're accumulating flex time and for what reasons. We're also very, very happy to reimburse you for your after-hours assignments as a freelance. So let's try to minimize an excessive amount of accumulation of flex time at this point, but we do still have that as an option available to us. The administration is aware of it, and they're full support of it. They understand the benefits not only to ourselves in terms of having flexibility in our schedules, but they also appreciate the willingness for our staff to go above and beyond on behalf of and for the benefit of TLC. Let me talk about some of the changes that are going to be affecting you as non-exempt employees. You're currently paid 26 paychecks evenly distributed over the 12 months. That's going to change. You're currently being paid 62 hours per pay period. And going forward, as of November 19th, I believe that's when the deadline is, you'll be paid for whatever hours you submit on your timesheet. An average work period is going to be 80 hours per week, so you'll see a significant increase in what your average paycheck is. However, when you don't work, you won't get paid. I think having a few hours of flex time accumulated will help stem the tide during those lulls in the school calendar, during those lulls of vacation week, or if there's a snow day, you could easily just write in 8 hours of flex time to make up for that, to make sure that your income stream is not disrupted entirely. I know the burden falls on you to figure out how to manage your funds and budget your money during those lulls. Something else, an interesting little piece of information I found out, which was brand new information to me, was that during the summer months when you are quote unquote out of work, you're actually eligible for unemployment. Uh, I guess that's a good fallback option. However, it's not an ideal situation. We're really talking about 4 weeks in the summer where the possibility exists for you to drop your employment at TLC, which means your health insurance coverage will stop, but then you would be eligible to collect unemployment for that period of time and then, quote unquote, be rehired back in September. So that's a brand new option to me. I'm not really sure how that will unfold, but if that's something that people are really interested in pursuing, then that's a conversation that you can have with human resources. Regarding your paychecks, and I believe it was phrased in the letter from Kristen Tagman that there would be a change in your benefits. The really only change in your benefits, as I said, is how the paychecks will be distributed and how your health insurance premiums will be deducted through those vacation weeks, through those non-paid weeks. Sue Chamberlain has figured out that there would be 2 pay periods in which an additional amount would need to be deducted in order to provide you with your continued health insurance coverage through those vacation weeks in the summer and everywhere else. If you're not getting biweekly paychecks, then you're not getting that even health insurance deduction throughout the 26 pay periods. There needs to be some remedy to make up for that differential. And what's been figured out is that there would be 2 weeks a year where your paychecks would be deducted an additional, I believe, $92 for a single to make sure that your health insurance remains intact year round. For those people who are earning over $47,474, there are a few of you who have been here with us for many, many years. There are a few of you who are here 12-month staff. I'm making efforts to revisit the determination of non-exempt. I'm currently in the process of revising the job description in such a way that it meets the criteria for exempt status, therefore keeping you as salaried employees. That is still to be determined. That's something that I'm working on right now as we speak. I have a number of emails sent out right now trying to gather information from other agencies such as MCDHH. How are their employees categorized? What is the status of staff interpreters at MCDHH? What are the staff interpreters at MRC being categorized? I've got emails out to other public school districts as well as private referral agencies such as Partners. So I'm hoping their input, their feedback can help inform what we do in terms of our own job description, how they were able to circumvent that criteria and that litmus test that's given to all of the positions that are considered to be exempt. So that's to be determined. I have a follow-up meeting with HR again next week, Thursday. And again, Judy Vreeland will be sitting in on that meeting. And just so you know, Judy Vreeland empathizes with our department. In fact, she's on board with our belief that we should be considered full exempt professionals given the high level of difficulty and specialized training that we receive, the amount of decision-making that we're entrusted with in our positions. So I'm hopeful that there could be a potential change in the status of some of us. However, at this point, I cannot guarantee that. So given that, I think what we need to do is get into the mindset that we are going to be now hourly employees and we'll be required to submit timesheets bi-weekly. Those are really the only major changes in our status that people might be impacted by. Otherwise, we're still able to enjoy the flexible scheduling we've always enjoyed. We're still able to earn additional money as independent contractors. That won't change. And I hope that this alleviates some of the fears that people are experiencing. And as I said, that this is a trend around the country. This is not something that the Learning Center has decided independently. This is really something that's being forced upon us as an agency, as a hiring agency. And I can tell you from my own research that this is not an unusual situation. The Learning Center is not making a decision that's out of line with other staff interpreting positions around the country. I'm going to do everything I can to raise the bar again in terms of professional recognition. If there's any way, shape, or form that we can keep our salaried exempt status, I will certainly do that. But at this time, it's really not looking good for this department. We're going to be going hourly, and unless you hear otherwise. So I hope that this answers most people's questions. I'll be doing another follow-up next week with updates. I know that I appreciate everyone's input on this agenda that I've been able to bring to Human Resources and the senior administration at the Learning Center. Your input was invaluable. So if you have any immediate questions, don't be shy about reaching out. And I'm sorry that I didn't have better news for some of you. And I guess that's all for now. To be determined. Oh, one other thing regarding the payroll is that the deadline of November 19th for submitting timesheets was the reason for setting that deadline. The law goes into effect December 1st, but the reason for setting that deadline was so that TLC employees could avoid owing the Learning Center money. The Learning Center felt it was much better to start this process earlier, so the Learning Center owed you additional funds versus you owing them funds. If we were to prolong the implementation of this new hourly system till December 1st, your first pay period wouldn't come until 2 weeks after that, and that 3 to 4 week time period would essentially tip the scales, and then you would owe the Learning Center a few dollars versus the Learning Center owing you a few dollars, that was the rationale for that deadline of November 19th. Sue Chamberlain has a spreadsheet of pay periods, and I am not really able to follow it very well. I'm going to include it onto this email message so that you can have it for reference. But Sue Chamberlain is in our payroll office, is ready, willing, and able to meet with you individually to determine what your first pay period is going to look like, what the differential is, and answer any additional payroll questions you might have. She would be the person to speak with. If you have any additional concerns or questions that you haven't submitted to me, or you'd like to take up with HR directly, Kristen Tagman's office is also available for as-needed appointments, drop-in appointments. Feel free to do that. I've got some work to do on my end in terms of revamping the job description, resubmitting it for determination. I am also awaiting responses from all of those agencies whom I've contacted to figure out how they've dealt with it, to see if I can get any advice or input. So stay tuned for that information. Thanks very much for your patience in all of this, and I hope we have a smooth transition. I'm really hoping that staff morale is not affected. I think we have some really positive answers to answer most of people's concerns. Unfortunately, I can't do much about a certain number of employees who fall below that dollar threshold and don't meet the criteria for FSLA exemptions. If there's additional support that can be provided by TLC in terms of budgeting and planning, or if there's any savings options, I know that your direct deposits can certainly be distributed to a certain number of accounts. So if you wanted to maintain your same level of income each week, what you could do is have 18 hours per pay period directly deposited into a savings account versus directly into your checking account. You can split your income in that way. you can actually have your direct deposit sent to 3 different bank accounts if need be. So that's one option off the top of my head that might help for those of you who are really concerned about budgeting through the summer months. Um, and if I come up with any other ideas, I'll be sure to share that with you. And if you folks have ideas around budgeting and managing finances year round, let me know. I know there's a couple of staff who have experienced non-exempt status at TLC and have lived through this for years. They might have some ideas and suggestions to share with you as well. Thanks for your attention. I know this is kind of a long-winded message, but it was a lot easier for me to get this out quickly versus organizing all of my thoughts in a written email. I will, in fact, go through my facts and put them into writing, but this is the quickest way I could get it out to you. Let me know if you have any questions. Have a great weekend. We'll see you at homecoming tomorrow. Thanks again. Bye.